Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this extended episode of Stewarts Soundbites. I'm joined by an incredible client of ours, Justen Bersin, and I'm so pleased to get the chance to share his story in more detail with you all today, because it really is incredible. And I'm probably going to use the word inspiring far too much during this, Justen. But we've got a few areas we're going to cover today, and you're happy to take any questions at the end. So pop those in the Q&A box, and we'll try and get to those throughout. So thank you for joining us, Justen. We obviously met back in February 2023, wasn't it?
Yep.
And you were obviously very poorly, in a very bad way, in hospital at the time, having sustained very serious injuries, including a spinal cord injury. And I know that you have a particular name for the anniversary of that day that you were injured. Are you happy to share that?
Sure. Yeah. So the injury happened on the 14th of January, 2023. And yet we now call that Not Dead Day.
Not Dead Day. And every year since then, you have, I don't know if celebrate is the right word, but you have marked it. You have celebrated your Not Dead Day. And I think that is just such a good introduction into who you are as a person and your approach to, this really serious injury that you sustained. And I think that is a really good introduction to everybody as to how you have approached all aspects of your life after living with a serious injury. So we could talk for hours and hours, I think, but I am limited. I have to not waffle today, I've been told, even though we've been given this extended session. So we're going to cover three particular areas that I think your story really emphasizes. So the title of today's episode is, going through stormy seas, getting through that really difficult patch, and returning to your passion of travel and adventure after sustaining such a serious injury. So we're going to focus on that, and we're also going to touch on the importance of specialist rehab, specialist equipment that you have, had the benefit of. I should mention that your wife Sandrine initially approached us in February 2023 when obviously you were in a very, very bad way, and instructed Stephanie Clark, who's a partner at Stewarts, to investigate a claim on your behalf. And through that claims process, you received a number of interim payments that allowed you to fund and trial and purchase specialist pieces of equipment, which has obviously been, a bit of a game changer for you. Have that specialist rehab as well as care and suitable accommodation. So we're going to focus on that kind of specialist rehab and equipment, and we're going to kind of round things off by talking about your incredible wife Sandrine, and how you've kind of maintained teamwork in your relationship and in your partnership after a life-changing injury. So to start with, if you can paint us a picture of what your life was like before your Not Dead Day.
Sure. So pre-January 2023, I was living in London. I'm originally from South Africa, then lived in Australia for a decade, and then came to the UK in 2010. I was working as a solicitor in-house at a bank, the Bank of New York, and I participated in a lot of outdoor activities, such as sailing. I also went to the gym a lot, doing CrossFit. I was preparing for my Olympic weightlifting competitions. So I was a very fit person. I was a very active person. And I used to say that I was 90 kilos bold, bearded, and built.
And what did that kind of active lifestyle, what did that give you? Was it the kind of challenge? Was it the adrenaline? Was it that kind of sense of freedom? What was it for you that, really kind of made that pursuit of challenges, active challenges, travel so important to you?
Yeah, it's a number of factors there. I think one of the things is exploring the world, and that's why I did quite a lot of travel with my wife pre-injury. My wife is also from the Caribbean, so being able to have that excuse to go and explore the Caribbean is great.
Not that you need one.
Sailing is a big part of my life. So going sailing in the Caribbean, also doing the racing here in the UK and some of the big offshore ones like the Fastnet race. And I've always been a water baby from birth, swimming, water skiing. When I got to Australia, I got more into scuba diving. I
Mm.
qualified as a dive master, and I've dived in many places around the world. So exploring the underwater realm. And then when I got to the UK, diving here is rather cold and rather involved.
Not
So
quite as exciting as the Caribbean.
slightly different from the Caribbean, slightly different from living on the Great Barrier Reef in Australia.
Yeah.
So I transitioned more into sailing, and yeah, that became a big part of my life. Also because I found that you never have 2 days the same sailing. There's always something that you're testing or learning or challenging yourself with. Sometimes the challenge is when there's absolutely no wind, and the big challenge is how to keep everybody interested and happy. But yeah, through evolving those being the big passions of my life, and really getting out there. I'm absolutely useless on an Xbox or a PlayStation or a computer game, but get me outdoors and that's my element.
Yeah. And what was your qualification, your sailing qualification? Was it Master Yachtsman? It was a very impressive
Yeah,
qualification you had.
it's an impressive sounding title, although plenty of people actually do have it. So I'm a yacht master offshore in sailing.
Yes.
I'm qualified through the RYA to be in charge of vessels uh, offshore, more than 150 nautical miles from land. Um, and I'm in diving. I'm a dive master, so that was a PADI certification. I've got some other certifications in there. So I've
So
always
as
I
well
don't
as a really active job, you invested the time in these kind of hobbies and passions. And I think that's another really good example of your personality as a person. You never do things by half.
yeah
If you're going to get into a hobby, you're going to be a dive master, you're going to be yacht master. You're going to do it to kind of your best ability.
yeah. If I'm taking to something, I'm taking to something wholeheartedly.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that has been, a feature that has really kind of, come through in your approach to life post injury. So in terms of your kind of return, if you like, your big comeback to those hobbies and passions and that life of adventure and travel, when did that first feel possible? Because I imagine there was a time, after your spinal cord injury where you were questioning whether that would ever be possible.
Yeah, I think it's different. Different aspects have presented themselves um, as I've grown more aware of what has actually gone wrong. So, for example, the first time I could actually speak in ICU, I turned around to the doctors and went, "What's it going to take for me to get out of here in a month? Because I've got a wedding to get to." Mine.
Your wedding.
Yeah, that came as a big shock, and that was before I'd even realized I had a spinal cord injury problem. Um, once I, so it took about a year of, well, I spent 10 months in hospital, 4 months at intensive at the Royal London, and then another 6 months at the Royal National Orthopaedic Stanmore in their spinal cord unit. So 10 months in total in hospital, then eventually came home in October, and then in January had my first not dead day. And about then is when I sort of peeked my head above the parapet, also on social media and others, and let people know that, yeah, I had gone quiet for a reason, that rumors of my death had been not that greatly exaggerated. And from there, a lot of my friends that I'd known from pre-injury were showing their support, saying, we will, obviously you want to get back sailing, we'll take you out sailing. And one of my friends, Hannah Stodel, is the para manager for World Sailing. And she herself is a Paralympian, three-time Paralympian in sailing, and basically sent me a message going, yes, we're going to get you back in a boat. And by the way, the World Championships are in November. No, it was October that year. So get your skates on. And yeah, that prompted me to get back into try finding out parasailing and getting into that. I also knew that I would like to do diving, and I had been visited by one of the SIA ambassadors at the Royal London, and he's a C5 paraplegic, and he had been diving. I said, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And that's kind of one of the ways that I've then attacked problems, has gone, do I think it's possible? Yes. Okay. Break it down. How do we expand the art of the possible there? And I've been able to go diving in the Caribbean, in Oman, in some pools, which aren't as exciting, but practice is required. I've been sailing at the World Championships, the first ones that were in the United Kingdom, here in Rutland. And then last year I was in Oman sailing those World Championships. And a lot of it is going, okay, that's what I want to do. How do we make it happen? And
Yeah.
you will be told, especially when one is disabled, you will find the word no gets presented to you a lot of the time. And I take that on board and I go, okay, I'm not being disrespectful and I'm not being rude. I'm simply not accepting your no. Let's break it down. Why is it a no? Can we turn that into a yes? And look at the various factors and find out. And sometimes it will continue to be a no. My pole vault career has come to a bit of a middle. But in other aspects, one takes a no and one breaks it down into the little steps, attacks each of those steps in turn, and found out that actually, yes, we can turn some no's into yeses.
And was it important to have those, role models, I suppose, like you say, with Hannah and with other activists, I suppose, in the disabled community who are highlighting the fact that you can push those boundaries? And, I think the use of social media has really helped with that, highlighting that, after a serious injury, it doesn't mean that you can't do, activities like you say. You've done water skiing, sailing, diving, accessible hot air ballooning, which I had never seen before. Was it important, or do you think it was helpful to have those mentors and that visibility of people pushing the boundaries for you?
I think it's definitely easier if one sees that somebody else has done either what you're going to want to do or something similar first, so that you can go, okay, well, it's been done before, or similar has been done before, or they've done it, so maybe I'm able to be doing it. When one has to break ground for the first time by yourself, it's a lot more daunting. I don't think I've had to break any new ground myself. I've just had to sometimes tweak some things and go, well, that's very similar to what people have done before. So I'm going to do it like that, albeit with a slightly Justen flavor.
Well, I mean, I would say that the things you've done are absolutely groundbreaking, Justin. But as I say, that's I'll be using the word inspiring a lot through this talk. Where can people kind of learn more about accessible adventure if they are inclined to kind of get back into a pre-injury hobby or try something new? Are there any organizations or resources that you kind of rate and have been helpful to you?
Yeah, there's an organization called Access Adventures that does the accessible water skiing out near Heathrow. And even if you can't get there, they also run snow skiing in the winter months. And from that, you're also going to find people who want to be engaged in those sports. You can sort of connect with a network to leapfrog from that onto other sports that you might want to be trialing. I've also found that the interspinal unit games occur. That opens up various other hobbies. There was shooting, there was archery, there's wheelchair, um, not bike riding, but hand cycling,
Yeah.
uh, which again shows you something that you can try and get into. And a lot of it is uh, there's the phrase get out of your comfort zone. Pre-injury, I realize that takes just a bit of a mindset tweak. You need
Mm.
to you you've got your comfortable area of what you're in, and you think, okay, I might want to push myself. When you're disabled and you go, okay, you need to get out of your comfort zone, you literally do mean you're going to have to get uncomfortable, and
Mm.
you're going to get bumped around a bit, jarred around a bit. You need to be prepare yourself for that a bit. But if you are prepared to do so, and you go and start asking people the questions of, can I do this? A lot
Mm.
of the mentality is generally going to be, let's see if we can find a way. And it's about reaching out, whether it's on Instagram to somebody you've seen, whether there's organizations, there's Disability Snow Sports UK for the snow side, there's Access Adventures, there's the SIA has got some interesting parts of it. There's Backup Trust that runs adventure days. So a lot of it, if you're interested to try it out, regardless of what that sport is or what that challenge is, chances are people will be prepared to help you if you reach out and start at least doing, and pardon the pun, the legwork.
Yeah. And we've spoken about the kind of activities, but a big part of your kind of return to your pre injury kind of passions and hobbies has been travel as well, hasn't it? And how how has that pushed you outside of your comfort zone? Because I know that it hasn't been, again, excuse the pun, plain sailing. You have faced some real difficulties with those barriers as a wheelchair user, needing kind of accessibility. Um, how has kind of planning a trip been different for you post injury?
There's a lot more logistics that are required when you're a wheelchair user. And it's also what level of type of wheelchair user are you? A lot of
Mm.
people, when you say wheelchair user, are thinking of somebody who has got two functioning arms and is in a manual chair and can probably move themselves out of their chair themselves into a bench beside them, whatever, known as a transfer. Um, I'm not that wheelchair.
Mm.
I use powered wheelchairs because I also have my right arm has sustained a big injury and it is only very partially functional. So I use powered wheelchairs to transfer. I have to use a hoist, and that means when it comes to travel, a lot of logistics has to be planned in
Mm.
advance to figure out um, where we want to go, where we can stay when we are there, how we're going to get there. Are we going to be using air travel? which air travel, and then months of planning, of liaising with airlines and their accessibility staff to say what you're going to be bringing and what's needed and how much it's going to cost.
Mm.
I'm fortunate these days in that I found a very good accessible travel agent known as World Accessible Travel.
Mm-hmm.
And between Steve, Paul, and myself, nagging various airlines, we're slowly getting there into not the easiest amount of travel, but better than it was.
Mm.
There's also by the Queen Elizabeth's Foundation, QEF, run a program called Try Before You Fly. Even
Yes.
if you don't sign up to that program, they do have a lot of resources on their website where one can go and take a look and start figuring out the steps of what you have to do to explain to airlines what is coming along. And yeah, you will, when you're flying with an airline, you are going to have that sinking feeling in your stomach the whole trip of is my wheelchair going to be damaged underneath the plane or not?
Mm.
Is it going to come out intact? Knock on wood, I have not yet had my wheelchair damaged. I have run into other issues, which I
You
don't
had
need
some
to.
real issues with your lithium batteries, didn't
Yeah,
you?
well, that's the thing. These days now, um, portable power devices for wheelchairs are using lithium batteries.
Mm.
There is a big issue with flying with lithium batteries. It can be done. Again, it just takes quite a bit of research, knowing
Mm.
what you've got, and then talking to the airlines and discussing with them what the regulations say and also what their policy is. Because nothing commands the airlines to accept lithium batteries on board. It
Mm.
is, they are told by IATA, the international organization, um, what is the maximum that they could take on board that is safe. Uh, and then it's their own policy on how they're going to work with that. So again, a lot of research is required. If you also probably need a wheelchair from a reputable brand. If you're getting, and apologies for denigrating this, but some knockoff, let's say from the backwoods of China, and it's a no-name brand stuff, because you will not have the paperwork on that and
Mm.
that brand doing the proper testing on their batteries, then it is unlikely to be accepted aboard.
Mm.
The same as how that's going with e-bikes around on Transport for London and all the rest of it. That the main scares that they have had sort of budget lithium batteries burst into flames on various things. So they don't want to take it in a confined space, such as
I
an air.
don't think that's something that would even occur to people necessarily in terms of, something to plan and deal with when, booking a holiday. Like you say, that's just one aspect of what you've had to kind of navigate. Is it worth it? I know you've done some amazing trips. It's a lot of planning. Has it been worth it for you?
I said, for me, it's definitely been worth it. If you don't do it, then your bubble shrinks. Um, if you want your bubble to expand, if you want to still go see my family in the Caribbean and other countries and other places, then yeah, you have to do the work for that. And it is going to take longer than what able-bodied people require. It is possibly going to cost more. It is not fair. The world is not fair. You Some of that you have to suck up and deal with. The other thing is that you also have to be prepared is that things might go wrong. Chances are things probably will go wrong in some part of the trip. And you need to have the mentality there of going, okay, something's going to go wrong. When we get to whatever it is that goes wrong, we'll have to deal with it. Um,
Do you think having a team around you that has that same mindset? I'm thinking about your rehabilitation team. Obviously, you had a big rehabilitation team, multidisciplinary team, which was funded through the interim payments. Did having therapists and members of your team who had that same mindset, was that really important to you?
Well, I think that they got pushed into my mindset.
They
Having
got
that,
dragged along.
yeah, it was basically, this is what we're going to do. Now help me make it happen. I have not yet had a trip where something hasn't gone wrong.
Mm.
It's just the level of where it occurs. And each of that is a lesson. So hopefully, we plan the next trip of going, well, this stuff has happened to us beforehand. So what can we put into place so that doesn't happen? It's been things from my wheelchair not being able to fit into a car to accidentally leaving a charger back at home, which meant that one piece of my kit wasn't available. Excuse me a second.
I think we've just lost your camera. There we go. You're back.
No, apologies. I was being called. I'm clearly in demand.
You're in demand.
Heaven knows who. But yeah, that's the thing, is that sometimes it can be something as simple as leaving a battery back home that accidentally you forgot, which is going to put a crimp in your plans. How do you deal with it? So now I have checklists for everything. Sometimes it's not being able to fit into a car. Okay, how much more research do we have to put in at the front end to make sure that we've got those measurements and the cars have those measurements, and we can figure that out. Most things can be overcome. It takes effort, it takes time, and it takes
determination.
I was going to say an amount of bullheadedness. But your words a lot more.
Stubbornness, determination, it's how you frame it. But you have been incredibly determined, and like you say, you haven't taken no. You've said, I don't want to hear that no. Let's talk about how we can make it happen. And has equipment played an important factor in making those things happen for you?
Yeah, it has. Some of it is specialist disability equipment. Some of it is equipment that was never intended to be used for disability purposes. But I've taken a look at it and gone, but you can use it for that. So let's do. For example, on my scuba diving, obviously my legs don't kick. Now I have friends who are disabled scuba divers, but they've got both functioning arms, so they can find their way through that way. I can't. And I was told, well, you'll have a propulsion diver. Somebody else will do the swimming for you. And I wasn't really au fait with that idea. That didn't strike me as how I would like to do it. So I went and I looked at my big vice, which is Kickstarter, which generally has various ideas coming to market. And one of those things was a diver propulsion vehicle, a DPV. Now, people might have seen like some of the James Bond films where they go around being dragged by these things. And as a dive master and one for 20 years, I know that these things have existed. The issue is that they historically have been very big and very clunky and very heavy, at minimum, the size of a waste paper basket or a rather large one. To move you around, which would be beyond what I could use. And I found this one company bringing to market. They had bought some ones before to market, so they were tried and tested. And it was a DPV, and it's about the length of my forearm and about the width of my forearm, actually. It's a small, light device. And with that, it still has the power to be able to pull me through the water. So I went and I got one of those, spent my Christmas money, but it was worth it. And then practiced with it in the London Aquatic Centre pool first, and then was ready to go take it to Grenada for my first diving session. And even for being able to use it in the pool, the Aquatic Centre had an open day. There was a scuba centre that came and attended that open day because they were using the pool for their training. And I nonchalantly wheeled my way up to them and went, "My name's Justen. I'm a disabled dive master. Have you had any experience in disabled or adaptive diving?" And they went, "No." "Well, you're about to." And working with them, I was able to do some practice in the pool, figuring out what systems I needed, who I would need to assist me and how, and then was off to the races.
And is that, we were kind of talking about, the different pieces of equipment. Obviously, we can see one that you're using there. Is it the arm on?
This is the arm on, yeah, that
Yeah.
helps my right arm have a bit more function.
Yeah. So you have a number of pieces of equipment that are, integral to your function every day, engaging in your daily activities. Obviously, your wheelchair is absolutely irreplaceable. What's your favorite piece of equipment?
Well, I'll split that one. I'll say I've got my favorite piece and I've also got my most integral piece. My favorite piece is my tri-ride wheelchair, which is I've made up, I call it my Swiss Army knife of wheelchairs. I've worked with my wheelchair dealer, Wheel Freedom, and with tri-ride themselves to take the concepts that they provide and use them in a bit of a novel way so that my wheelchair can go from a completely manual wheelchair, which I can sort of use over very short distances and very slowly. So I use that in the gym, or I use that for when we are transiting in the plane, to when we go overseas and I'm able to put power wheels on the back and use a joystick. So I can use it as a joystick-driven wheelchair to also putting a power unit on the front, which is like a big motorbike. And then I have three-wheel drive. And I go places. I don't say I go places that wheelchairs haven't gone before. It's more like I'm going.
I think there might have been a few.
Yeah,
Was it Madeira that you went on the? It looked pretty treacherous.
there were some. Well, that's it. I say I don't go places that wheelchairs haven't gone before. I generally go places that wheelchairs probably shouldn't go, but we give it a go anyways.
Yeah, and pushing that limit of, that comfort zone. I think
Yes,
you
much to
become a
the
bit of a master in that.
yeah, much to the anxiety of my lovely wife Sandrine, who
Well,
who sometimes says, "Yes, I will join you in that," and sometimes goes, "I'm heading that direction. I don't even want to
yeah,
think."
have fun. I'll be waiting when you're done. And has this, because you mentioned that obviously travel and kind of adventure was a big part of your life with Sandrine pre-injury, and has that been an important part of, I suppose, rebuilding? I'm not sure if that's the right word, but you know exploring your kind of your life post injury, as in your marriage, has that passion and shared interest in travel and adventure, has that helped you with that transition post injury in your marriage?
I think the most emotional I got about my injury was not really how my injury affected me, because I had the mentality of, I'm going to have to find a way to deal with it. That's just what it is. But the times when I was a blubbering mess was when I was reflecting on how my injury now impacted my wife's life and how she would also have to adapt. Um, Now, Sandrine, very much to her credit, is extremely resilient. And I've also said that had our roles been reversed and Sandrine had been injured and I had been the able-bodied person who had to organize solicitors and care and, heaven forbid, deal with my family, I would not have coped nearly as well as Sandrine did. She has been a absolute pillar of strength and towering force. Now, to the travel elements and doing that, I think Sandrine has also tried to take the, well, why not approach of going, well, we would like to get back to travel as much as we can. Why not? Let's give it a go and let's find out how we can do these things. And I think, obviously, from the legal point of when one is looking at compensation, one tries to go, we are going to use compensation to attempt to return the affected person's life to what they had before as much as money can. And I've gone and taken that mentality of a step further. I've gone, I very much want to get back to my previous life as much as I can. So I did sailing before. I would like to do sailing after. I did diving before. I'd like to do diving after. I did travel before, travel after. There's a couple of others that have dropped in there, including abseiling and some that I probably didn't need to do before, but have tried to do after.
Yeah. And obviously it does have a massive impact on a relationship, a serious injury like yours. What would you say to any couples who are kind of newly navigating spinal cord injury or just a serious injury generally, who are kind of worrying about that aspect of their life after an injury?
I think you need to be you as a person need to be open and honest about what your thoughts and feelings are to your partner. And you also have to listen to what your partner's thoughts and feelings are. If you bottle it up inside and go, I don't want to deal with this because of how it might affect them, or I resent of what they are doing, but I'm not going to say anything, that sort of stuff can fester and will turn rather bad rather quickly. With Sandrine and myself, look, we haven't stepped right the entire way through. We've had our issues. At some points, she has done things I do not like, and I've done things that she does not like. But the trust we have with each other, that we can eventually come back and we can talk about it and learn from it and figure out how to move forward, then I think that's the most that you can expect to do. But it's also probably the minimum that you should expect to do with your partner. You need a lot of it is going to come down to communication. A lot of the issues are going to come down to miscommunication. Not all of them, but quite a lot.
I think that's probably true of kind of any relationship, injury aside. Just to kind of round us off, what's been your favourite trip that you and Sandrine have taken post-injury?
I'm very worried that my parents might see this webinar, and therefore I am forced to say my last trip to Australia, where I got to see my lovely parents and celebrate with my family. We've had good trips, or we've tried to focus on the good bits for along the range of the trips that we've had, whether it be Grenada, Madeira, Australia, or just sometimes here in the United Kingdom. I think the favorite trip is probably the trip that's around the corner. That's the next one to happen. I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but generally the moment I've come back from a trip, and this has been pre-injury as post-injury, one of the first things I start doing is trying to plan the next one, so I don't have that come down. Oh no, I'm back in rainy England, although it's a sunny day.
Well, I was going to say, it's probably the first day we've had without rain this year. Where is your next trip? Where are you off to?
I think my next trip that I'm planning is in May to Switzerland for a sailing competition.
Amazing.
The World Championships are again this October. That will be in Portugal. Next January, have to go visit my other side of the family again in Grenada. I know it's a tough job.
So
Somebody,
hard life.
somebody does have to. But in between that, there are plenty of projects that I keep myself active with. I'm at the gym 6 days a week. I had a very big gym uh, habit prior to my injury, and post the injury, it's more important now. In order to
Mm.
be able to go and do these things, I need my body to at least be fitter and be able to accommodate these things. And when I was at Stanmore, I went to the physiotherapist and I showed them some of the stuff I did pre-injury, which they were horrified about, but also on the Olympic lifting side. And I went, I'm used to doing things again and again and again, and not not failing, but not achieving that goal just as yet. And you have to try and try and try until you get there. I'm used to doing that. So
Mm.
give me the exercises and I will work at them until I can get there and then come and get the next challenge and move on.
Well, and you have worked incredibly hard, in your rehab. And like you say, that I think that is your mindset. That's who you are as a person. You've approached everything with such determination, and you are absolutely inspiring. And I feel very fortunate to have been part of, a very small part of your journey, Justen, because it has been truly incredible. And we're going to share, when we put out the recording of this session, we're going to share a link to your Instagram account, and people can have a look at the incredible things you have been doing, and obviously keep up to date with what's coming, Switzerland, and the trips later in the year. Thank you so much for joining us. I think we could carry on talking for the rest of the afternoon, but we've already gone over our allotted time, as I knew we would. But your story is also going to be featured in our annual review, so people can keep a lookout for that as well, which we shared on our socials. Thank you ever so much, Justen. I really appreciate it, and thank you for everybody else joining us as well.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.